Well, again, there we are. It's our time to spend together in reading Laat my lammers away, which is a summary, I would say, of the Bible. And we have moved from creation up to the Israelites moving into the promised land after the whole trip through the desert and all the drama they experienced there. A lot of stuff happened there. And then Moses were not allowed in to the promised land because he sinned against God, disobedience, and Joshua took over from him, and they confirmed the covenant with God, and they had the Ark of Covenant, which was the box where the law, the tablets were put in, and some other stuff, and they went through the Jordan together with Joshua on dry foot, because the God stopped the river on the one side, like a dam wall, like an instant dam wall, and the rest of the water went downstream, and they walked through the river Jordan. And then the next thing was to take over the city of Jericho. And you remember what they did? They walked around the city. They did not fight at all. They didn't go into the city and fight or try to get in over the walls and fight. They walked around the city, and on the last day, they blew on the trumpets and shouted, and what happened? The walls tumbled in, and they were able to go into the city and kill the enemy. So that's where we were. Now, in chapter, remember also, all the tribes got their own land. The whole promised land was divided up into 12 parts, and each of the tribes received their piece of land. Some of it on the east side of the river, and all the other guys on the west side of the river, up quite high up along the river, and they died. Those guys had to go and clean up themselves. They had to go in and fight the enemy and send them off, so that they will then take over the promised land. That's what God promised them. So in chapter 21 is the time of Israel after Joshua. So when Joshua died, they didn't have a leader anymore. And it is known as the period of the judges, when the judges ruled Israel. In this time, they regularly lived in disobedience of God. And then they were punished. And then they would come back again to God, turn back to God. And just for a while, then they would live in sin again and be disobedient to God's law. And so it just happened over and over and over again. But let's just look at the how it went. They lived in the promised land, but they forgot that God was their actual leader, their king. Instead, everyone did what they felt was right. They just disregarded God's laws. And the gravest of all these errors was that Israel failed to drive out the Canaanites. Remember, their command from God was, go into this country and drive out these Canaanites, because they were not supposed to mix with God's children, with the Israelites. And that led to intermarriage. So these Canaanites who believed in idols and prayed to idols, all kinds of idols. And that's exactly what God did not want to happen. And then they would adopt these idols instead of listening to God and to live according to God's law. God would then punish them by allowing other nations to come and oppress them. They have wars and stuff, and then they would be oppressed. And then when they would cry and say, please, God, help us, God would send a judge, a leader. So that's how it happened, what I said earlier. It was a cycle. Disobedience, back to God, disobedience, back to God. Every time they went back to God was when God would send a new leader, a new judge, to save them and to rule them and to govern over them. So let's look at a few of these guys. Othniel was the one. So after Israel sinned by worshipping idols, the Lord allowed the Israelites to be oppressed by the Cushan Risatiam king of Mesopotamia. So for 8 years, they were oppressed. So when they cried out for help, God sent the first judge, Othniel, who delivered them from these from the enemy. The land then had peace for 40 years. So, and then, when Israel sinned again by serving these idols, they were punished and oppressed by Eglon, king of Moab. He collected tribute from them. Then the Lord sent Ehud to save the people. He was now the judge and the leader. He killed King Eglon in his palace. And then Ehud mobilized the people and defeated the Moabites in a fight and drove them out. The land enjoyed peace for 80 years. Once again, the cycle, and Israel turned to the idols and was oppressed by Jabin, king of Canaan, whose military commander was Sisera. God used the prophetess and judge Deborah and the army general Barak to deliver Israel. And Sisera fled from the battle. And when he fled, he was the king, the leader. And when he fled from the battleground, he was killed by Jael, the wife of Heber the Kenite, who drove a tent peg. She drove a tent peg through his head while he was sleeping. He went to her for shelter, and she said, yes, of sure, come in. And he was tired, of course, of the fighting, and when he slept, she killed him. Peace lasted for 40 years. And then, after, more turning away from God and disobedience, Israel was oppressed by the Midianites for 7 years. And the Lord's angel appeared to Gideon. So he is the next leader. While he was hiding and threshing wheat in a winepress, the angel instructed Gideon to save Israel using his own strength. Gideon asked for a sign to confirm that he was speaking with the Lord. He did not know it was an angel. He wanted a sign. So Gideon prepared food, and the angel caused the food to be consumed by fire when he touched it with a staff, and then disappeared. Gideon built an altar there at that place and called the place "The Lord is Peace." So Gideon first tackled the idolatry in his hometown. His hometown was called Ophrah. He tore down the altar of Baal and cutting down the holy tree stump. They even had tree stumps with these faces on it, and they believed and prayed to them. So he cut all these things down, cut down the holy tree stump. He dedicated to Astarte. And when the townspeople tried to kill him, Gideon's father Joash defended him, saying, "If Baal is a god, let him fight for himself." I mean, that was fair. Don't you kill Gideon. Let Baal, the god, kill him if then he wanted to. Well, after that, they were thinking, of fighting the massive Midianite army to rid themselves of them. There were 135,000 men in this army. So Gideon called up all the people, and initially he gathered 32,000 men. Remember, they had 135,000. So it's 5 times more. The Lord, so he called up 32,000, but the Lord drastically reduced this number to show that the deliverance that they will have would belong to God and not to the army of the Israelites. First, all those who were afraid were sent home. Next, only 300 men were chosen. They had to not do a test, but they had to drink water from a stream. And those who quickly lapped the water with their hands, rather than kneeling down to drink, were chosen. So with these 300 men, it was just a sifting process. So those specific men who drank water in that way, they were chosen. So with these 300 men against 135,000 men, Gideon attacked the Midianite camp at night. The men were armed, and this is on instruction from God. God told him exactly what to do. The men were armed with trumpets and pitchers containing burning torches. They broke the pitchers, right, so that the flames became visible, then blew on the trumpets and shouted, "The sword of the Lord and of Gideon." They did this a few times and shouting, "The sword of the Lord and of Gideon." And the confusion caused the enemy to fight and destroy themselves. They thought the other guys were the enemy. They were sleeping. So in their, still sleepy and didn't know which side was left or right, they saw in this darkness somebody coming on, and they will kill him. And this 135,000 people started killing each other. And then when they started running away, Gideon and the 300 men followed them. They ran away from each other. They're killing each other and then ran away from each other. And Gideon and his men would follow and kill the enemy as they ran away. But after this victory, the people wanted to make Gideon their king, but he refused, declaring, "The Lord shall be king over you." So for the first time, somebody said the right thing. So Gideon ruled as a judge for 40 years. And then came Gideon's son, Abimelech. After Gideon's death, his son Abimelech killed 70 of his brothers to establish himself as king over Shechem. Abimelech's brief, what he was told, or his short reign, was very negative and ended when he was killed after a woman threw a millstone onto his head from the city wall. So she killed him by throwing the stone on his head. So that was very, very a short reign from this man. The period of the judges illustrated a continuous loop, as we said. Israel falls into sin, worshipping these idols, then God would send punishment, oppression from some other nation. The people would then repent and cry out to God, "Please, God, help us." And God then raises a deliverer, somebody who delivered them from the enemy, called a judge, to grant them just temporary peace. But then they would repeat this whole process again of worshipping idols. And then the whole thing carried on and on and on. So it was an ongoing struggle to trust and obey God rather than relying on Him all the time, but they would then rely on themselves or these gods. So this is the whole period where the judges reigned, that God sent to deliver, and every time, as we said, they would fall into the trap of, idols, repent, God will send the judge, save them, and they would have peace for a while. 40 years was the period, and 80 years. Once 80 years. So that's it. This is, hopefully, we'll understand. I think you must just page through the names of the judges again, so that you will recognize them when you hear them. So that whole list of the judges, ending with Gideon. Okay. So I think that's it for today. Sleep tight. Remember, Opa and Oma love you too. And God willing, I will speak to you tomorrow. And we will do chapter 22. This was chapter 21. All right. And let's see what we find in that chapter. All right. Sleep tight. Love you too. Bye.